So if everybody wants to know, you all are live. I think I'm going to get hurt in here wearing a Chiefs shirt. Pardon? Am I going to get hurt? What? Wearing this in here? You know, there's some radical, fans.
Let me tell you what, when they quit standing into
Oh, really? Oh, wow. I still root for them. Because we haven't won a Super Bowl since the 60s, so I understand.
Hank Stram.
Yeah, Hank Stram, you're right. You know? All right, so let me get this other camera. And we'll get it going.
Bob, pretty good, you? You're on live right now. Because Justin said he usually goes up to the floors right up there.
They told us.
Yeah, you know that.
He's like over by a week or something. I thought maybe he got
That means tax on those guys, I mean, 5 days and you gotta do this.
sorry, but I'm not. Between the pumpkin seed
Are you guys done right now? We got the other Saturday. I put a few from guys that outfitter I haven't done it yet. But they're not going to pick you up with the shoes. Well, if you didn't know, they don't think you're once you get that one of them,
you want me to see the water?
Hey, I couldn't be in two places at once. So I think you're going to be awesome with that one, Mac. This is live right now, so we're both live. Yeah, I'm doubling down by because last time didn't lose my connection. So now this is pretty big.
Yeah, right. Not me.
thanks for lunch.
You're doing better than me. I just was home and had put a bit of
set, right, Tom?
All I gotta do is turn that one on and I'm ready to go, but I think it's just 5:30 now. 5:32.
Does anybody need scratch paper and a pen for questions or anonymous questions? Anybody ask the panel members? Just raise your hand. I'll be happy to read the questions. Hello, everybody. Is the sound fine?
Yes.
All right, good. Welcome very much for coming. Thank you for being here. I am Rick Johnson. I'm with the committee for 1B and 1C for the ballot initiatives. And it's going to be a very casual evening. I understand we have a mixture of county residents, plain old citizens like myself, and county employees. Is that correct? If I just maybe see raise of hands on how many are just regular citizens, just regular guys. Okay, good. Terrific. That's great. That's great. That's great. All right. Well, I think everybody understands, especially if you're a county employee, how important this topic is that we're going to talk about tonight. And what we want to do is just encourage questions. We'll fill in as much information as you think we additionally need to do about what's going on the ballot measures. And but the key thing is to have some dialogue, answer any questions and clarify any points that need to be clarified, and get rid of any rumors, maybe dispel any rumors as well.
I think we should let Mr. Casillas correct, Chair.
Mr. Casillas, are you here in the audience?
Yes.
Come on up if you'd like to be on the audience on the platform here as on the Democratic committee. Welcome. Okay, well, Luis, you want to say a few words too?
Evening, guys. I'm glad you're all here. Thank you for coming. I know some of you have probably already voted, and some of you have a lot of questions still, but I hope we can answer the questions for you. We're trying to go with the county and these funds and how they work, especially the devolution. There's a lot of questions on that. If we don't have an answer for you, we have our finance director, our purchasing agent, about 2 other commissioners. If you have questions directed for them or something that we're not sure, we're going to bring them up as well. No question will go unanswered, or we'll try to give you the best thing we can, the best answer and most honest, truthful issue that we're facing right now in Los Angeles County. We're in dire straits. The funding is just not there anymore, and we need your help. And we also have a member of the Extension Office, Ms. Lori Arnold, and I'd like her to come up here and also give some information to you if she would like to regarding the effects that her office has taken and the lack of funding as well. A lot of our children aren't being able to get the attention they need from the Extension Office and 4-H anymore. And I saw that this year as a big eye-opener for me, myself, and my children entered 4-H for the first time. So there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of departments that are not getting funded anymore, and especially our maintenance and even our sheriff's department, our district attorney's office. So it's across the board. DHS now is also coming on some furlough days as well. So thank you for coming, and please submit your questions or stand, or I believe if they want them to come up and write the question down, and then we could read it aloud. That way it can be recorded and be heard on the camera. So thank you.
Just add a few more things. As a citizen of the county for about 21 years, and as a small business owner, what's going on in the county affects my business. It affects you personally. If you're an employee, you know the pain that's going on. The fact that the county is open 3 days a week. For me in the real estate business, that is a big problem. For personally, as well as for my customers and people who come into town or who want some county services that are very difficult to get on a 5-day-a-week period. But it affects the gas station owners. It affects the people who sell groceries and people who sell any retail item in town. It affects all of us, and if we can keep some of these, if we can increase our revenue base, just think of the impact it's going to have on all of us as individuals, and nice things, better things we can do for our county, as well as keep our services active 5 days a week. That's not a little thing. That is a big thing. So again, I don't want to do all the talking. So
Start off with Jody.
Jody, you want to say a few words? Jody Amato.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. If there's any questions, feel free, write them down, holler out, we'll get them answered. I am the elected county assessor, but today I am here as my personal concerned citizen for Los Angeles County. The county is asking to DeBruce Currently, the Los Animas County mill levy is 9.357. It was set to 9.357 by a vote of the public around 2005. Before that, our county was taking tax credits, and our mill levy was around 22. At that moment, and in that time frame, we were at the height of beginning our oil and gas climb, and we had a lot of production, we had a lot of drilling going on, so our county valuation was very, very large. So, county was doing what Tabor intended it to do. We were taking tax credits. At that time, the board thought it would be a good idea to let the public vote to set our mill levy, our county general operating mill levy, to 9.357. It was set out there on the ballot. The public voted yes to freeze, more or less, our mill levy from 22 mills to 9.357. The following year, oil and gas fell off a cliff. And every year since then, we have been decreasing 40 to 35% in revenue from that. When that decision was made to allow that vote to happen, oil and gas made up close to 90% of our assessed valuation in our county. Now it's running around 40%. So we have seen our valuation decline. Had we not set that mill levy to 9.357, none of us would be here tonight. We would not be having this conversation, but it was set. Last year, the county asked to increase our mills by 5. That way we would not have to undergo the extreme cuts, the downturn in services that we cannot provide to the public or to the constituents, the people that need and deserve these services here in our county. What debrucing will allow us to do is we cannot, as a county, no elected official, commissioners we cannot raise the mill levy above 9.357 without a vote of the public. We asked that last year. It was voted down. All debrucing allows us to do is in times of economic growth. Like you're seeing right now, if you've been up and down the streets of Trinidad, we have a lot of building going on. We have a brand new car dealership downtown. If you listen to the city or talk to some of the city folks, we have we're standing on the edge of some huge economic expansion. By debrucing will allow the county to take advantage of that economic growth. We hear a lot in the courthouse, well, what's the county doing to bring economic growth? Our hands are tied because we are not debruced. We need to debruce, that way we can take advantage and be able to benefit from that economic growth. No way, shape, or form can we raise that mill levy above 9.357. Debrucing allows us, in times of good economic growth, to hopefully put some money in our reserves for times when we have downturn of economic growth. Hopefully, we're going to see some new gas and oil exploration. Maybe the possibilities of the mine opening back up. I have seen in my professional capacity, we have a lot of home sales coming in. We have a lot of people coming from the Denver metro area, moving down here. They want to retire here. They are building, renovating new homes, building new homes. All of that new growth goes into that Tabor calculation. All the county we're asking is that we can keep it. If you go to any of the neighboring counties that surround us, Otero, Baca, Bent, Pueblo, Huerfano, Costilla, their county general operating mill levy, ours is the lowest, ours is 9, Costilla's is next, theirs is 18. The average of the rest of the counties is around 22. So if you own property in those counties, you're paying the county mill levy on average of around 22. And out of 64 counties in the state of Colorado, we are one of the 3 that have the lowest mill levy. El Paso County has 9, but they also have about $800 billion in assessed value. So for a county this size, all we're asking with the debrucing is to allow us not to have to lower that mill levy when we see growth, when we see expansion, when we see that valuation go up. Are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Tavi.
Something that's gone through my mind for quite a while is back in the heyday of the gas wells, the county went out and assessed each gas well, and they became like an improvement on the land, correct?
Correct. What Mr. Tavi's saying is back when oil and gas started, the county went out and we assessed those gas wells as an improvement on the land.
Are we no longer assessing those gas wells?
We are assessing those gas wells. As a matter of fact, myself and my staff just finished assessing close to 3,800 gas wells. The reason our valuation has gone down with them is because, as the assessor, we have to value the production and the price of the gas that's coming out of the ground. Sheer economics. The price per MCF is not what it used to be. In the heyday, it was close to $16 or $17 an MCF. I think we're close to $2 now.
How do you find that out?
The state of Colorado and the producers send that to us. So we have to verify what the production companies are sending us, and I have to verify it with the COGCC.
So the gas wells are worth less, so you assess less.
Exactly.
That was my question.
If you want to hand your question to me, just let me know and I'll pick it up.
Yes, Ms. Perry.
Jody, is there, have the commissioners, or who would make the decision, and is there a percentage that if this happens and we debruce, that would be set aside for the reserve?
Commissioners would have to answer that because they handle our budget overall. I will hand that off to Commissioner Lopez.
I think I'm going to ask Mr. Loudon to come up because he's been 7 years in the county. And I would assume, but I don't want to make a mistake here, so please, Mr. Loudon.
And to answer the first part of your question, currently with the valuation, we're looking at, if we were to debruce, we would have an estimate of around $30,000 in excess.
As I understand the question, if there's any excess money, what percentage would we set aside? That's something that we really can't answer, or I can't answer at this time, and none of the three of us can answer it because we don't know what the dollars are going to be. We would like to set some aside for sure, but we've got to get back to whole, and that is going to come first. That's 40 hours a week for everybody in the courthouse. That's kind of filling in some things. We had to use some reserve money. We've got to fill that back in. Contingency fund money, we've got to fill that back in. So in this first year, I don't see a lot being set aside because we've got a lot of backfilling to do. But in the future, yes, we would love to.
Any more debrucing questions? I know it's kind of a complicated subject, and I hope I made it as simple as we can. Debrucing, the bottom line, debrucing for dummies is when your valuation and your economic picture grows and expands. Counties, school districts, cities must be, according to Tabor, lower that mill levy. Out of 64 counties, we are one of 4 that has not taken on some type of debrucing measure. So right there should tell folks that Tabor isn't always, it doesn't work like it should. What it has done is it's shrunk government to the point of what you see happening right now here in Los Animas County, when you have to come to the courthouse. And unfortunately, we're only there 3 days a week to provide services. And you're going, when you can't, our sheriff's department is doing what they can on very little. Every office, DHS, my office, the treasurer, the clerks, every county department that provides services, we are doing the best we can with what we have, but it takes funds to do that. And what we're asking is, please help us provide you the services by helping us obtain the funds to get the services that you deserve as taxpayers and constituents and residents of this county.
I only have a few copies of, it's just a little short form on paper. I want to hand them down each, like every other row or something, just quickly look at them and review them. If you need copies, it's free on the web, and just pass them down. Because paper is very, very complex, so
I just want to add, are you done, Mr. Mulder?
Would you just tell everybody in the audience if that's what he's doing because they can't hear him?
He's passing out a form there that has some about debrucing, so you can read it and just pass it down the aisles so everybody can look at it. My say on debrucing is that I was kind of like privileged, I guess, or unprivileged, to meet Douglas Bruce in Douglas County. That's where he lived at. The sheriff at that time was serving Makita, and he wanted him to move down there. He was going to even buy my house in Cokedale so he could live here and be more impact here. And he had people helping him when the debrucing bill passed. And the reason it passed, because at the time that he put it in there was money. The revenues were high, and he felt that big government was spending taxpayers' money. And that might have been the case, but I don't think he worried about what happens when those revenues are no longer here. As we all know, nothing is forever. The gas companies, I was a coal miner, it's not here anymore. People that work, Judge will work in the gas field, it's not here anymore. Nothing is forever, people. We need your help in order to make it back into, as Commissioner Lown said, you know, we wish we could get so much money that we could put a lot of money aside to save. We have to go back and backfill for those positions that we've lost because of the loss of revenue. Everybody's on a 30-hour week. We can't be in law enforcement, so what did they do with my office? We cut staff. We can't protect this county that's the largest county in the state, fourth in the nation, of 5,000 square miles. We might not have a lot of population, but from here to Kim, 70 miles. Branson, 50 miles. Well, we got to go, up to Golnera, those areas, you know, and gas is helping, fuel, everything costs money, people. All we're asking you for is to help us debruce some of that money. She mentioned $30,000 excess. That's not a lot of money either. We need your help. Debruce Los Angeles County, as she mentioned. There's only a few counties that haven't debruced. Pretty soon, if we don't debruce, and we don't have the functions, and we don't have the money to have offices, you're going to be going out of town to go buy your stuff for the state or the county there, because there will be no offices. We're asking you only to give us in order, we're not going to make more positions, or I've had some people say, well, the commissioners and people are going to get raises. The money isn't going to raises. All elected officials, our salaries are set by the state legislature. We get so much, and that's all we get. You know, when I draw overtime, I have to give it back. I give it to one of the guys within our agency that we have for our slush fund that we use for the schools. I give it back to the schools sometimes. We're not asking for a lot, people. Please, we need to debruce this county. We need to show that we trust the elected officials that we have in office to do the right thing. You know, and they have term limits. But if you feel that they're doing their job, you put them out of office. That's the thing about the diplomacy that we have in America. We have the right to vote for who we want in office. And if you don't like them, you put them out. Give these guys a chance here to try to see what they can do for this county, to have some funds that they can be able to say, okay, yes, we need that. And it's all about needs, not wants, people. Everything that we put in our budgets are by needs, not wants. We want everything, but we know we can't have it, so we have to go down just to needs. Remember that. It's by needs, just like your own household. If you have extra money, maybe you'll buy some, but if you don't need it, you don't buy it. Thank you.
Tabor affects all revenue streams into the county or to the governments, right? Not just millet, not just from your property tax, correct?
Correct. It also affects your income to the state of Colorado, sales tax, all taxes.
So this 1C measure is just affecting the mill levy part of the revenue stream,
Correct.
not the other revenue streams coming into the county.
Correct.
Our grants are debruced.
Yes, currently our grants that the county receives, those were debruced. I'm not sure what year, but they've been debruced a while, because even grants coming into local governments, your schools, the county, your cities, your towns, those are go against your Tabor calculation. And essentially, and Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, the Tabor calculation is figured we have to use an inflation period. Essentially, the monies we collected the previous year, we have to calculate calculate for inflation, which isn't very much.
And growth.
Inflation and growth, which our growth in past years hasn't been very much. So it's very out of all of the forms of restrictions that all government have to look at and are under for their spending. There's 5.5%, which comes out of the Colorado Constitution, and then there's Tabor. Tabor is the most restrictive. Essentially, I think I heard Commissioner Moulter say it once, Tabor essentially is like your own household. Your expenses continue to go up, your utilities, your groceries, your insurance, yet your check payments. Your check that you bring in, your income is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. That's exactly what is happening to Los Animas County. Our expenses are growing and growing and growing due to economics, and our check, or the revenue that we bring in, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and therefore it's affecting all of the services that we must provide. And everything that every elected official in that courthouse, everything we do is mandated by state law. So every single part of our jobs comes down from legislation. And unfortunately, if we as elected officials can't do our jobs or meet those deadlines, the state has to come in. As the assessor, if I don't meet my assessments or if I fail a reevaluation, the state of Colorado will come in, take over the assessor's office, and then Los Animas County has to turn around and pay the state to come down and do our jobs. But we can't do jobs without manpower. We can't do jobs without funding. I can do that. This year, we have something else in the Colorado Constitution called the Gallagher Amendment. It was written in there in the early 80s. What the Gallagher Amendment does is it controls the assessment rates for all pieces of property, for residential property, ag property, commercial property, industrial property, and vacant property. So if you have a residence and it's residential property and I have been assessing it, you will actually see a decrease in your tax bill this year, in your tax bill you receive in 2018. The Gallagher Amendment, what it mandates we must do is we have to keep equality throughout the entire state of Colorado. So we had so much growth, and the state saw so much growth from Colorado Springs all the way up to the state line and off the I-25 corridor to the east and the west. Their residential sales, some of those counties up there saw residential values go up 60 to 80% this year because their home sales, their housing market was so hot. And right now in Denver and in Colorado Springs, you can put a house on the market, it's on there an average of 10 days before it's sold, or somebody's put a bid on it. Hopefully sometime in the future, Los Animas County will see that. I don't think it's coming anytime soon, but we'll see. But what Gallagher mandates is because we, as all 64 counties, we have to maintain equality. So Gallagher mandated that our residential assessment rate must be lowered. So previous years, for the past 6 years, the residential assessment rate has been at 7.96. This year, all 64 assessors across the state of Colorado, we had to lower that assessment rate to 7.2. So you will be seeing a decrease in your residential taxes thanks to the Gallagher Amendment.
And that affects our income in this county.
It does. The tax rate that we would have been bringing in saw a decrease. That was not a good day when I had to go tell commissioners how much we were going to be losing when we're already cut to a 30-hour work week. Because how it works is the actual value of your house, say your home is $100,000. I have to take that value of $100,000, your actual value. I have to take that times the residential assessment rate, which is 7.2, which would take that to $7,200. Then I have to take that times the mill levy or whatever district you're in to generate and develop what your tax amount is. So on average, just what I've been kind of spot checking here and there, everybody's going to see about a $20 to $32 decrease in your tax bill of your homes within our county. So I know you're going to see a decrease, and that's why we're asking for a debrucing so we can help continue to give services. It takes funds to maintain county services. Bottom line.
Any questions at this point? Additional questions that came up? If not, then we turn it over to Pete Fraser. He has a couple of things to add.
Thank you. When we first began talking about what we would say in a town hall meeting, one of the things was that we wanted truth to be highlighted and some of the myths and some of the misstatements to also be pointed out. I would state that I've been noticing, and it's been brought to my attention, that where you see the signs that have been placed up for the committee to vote yes on 1B and 1C, Another someone has been kind of tracking those signs and saying, vote no on 1C, which is what Jody and Mac and the others have been speaking about. And underneath that, it says, vote no on 1C to avoid runaway spending. And the implication there is that the county can go ahead, you get rid of 1C, the debrucing, that they can go ahead and raise revenues and then start this runaway spending. That is simply not true. That is not true. And so when I would challenge everyone, when you see that sign, remember, that is someone who has failed to come forward to find the answers in the manner that you're here today. But that is something that we want to do, is to dispel the misstatements that are being made out there. There's a lot of rumor and there's a lot of misunderstanding. But as citizens, as voters, it's really important to know and understand. As they said, debrucing is nothing more than the amount that the electorate has already given the authority to give to the elected officials to run the government. That is what they are allowed to collect. With the ratcheting down effect, they have had to give it back to keep it like last year. And if you spend less than last year, in this instance, we're spending less than we did last year, right? Because the people have been laid off and the people have gone to 30 hours. That being the case, the same thing will continue and continue until the only ones that you have there at the courthouse are your elected officials. Because they won't be able, like that old joke says, they won't be able to pay for the workers. But when, in dispelling these myths, there's no way that your taxes will ever, ever go up unless you vote for them. And that's what I want to make clear for all of you. All right, thanks.
If it's okay, I'll just turn the discussion a little bit toward to 1B, which is the 1 cent sales tax. I just want to make a couple comments quickly. I think people know this, but just in case, there are right now currently there is no county sales tax, and also the county is not receiving any of the tax revenue from marijuana sales, because that's all city income, not county income. So obviously this would open up that source of revenue for our county, the badly needed source of funds. And keep in mind also that about 60%, I think, of the spending, if I have my numbers correct, in the city area is from people passing through, visitors, guests, tourists who come to our area, which is an increasing number, of course, which is good things for the city and the county. But just keep those issues in mind. So I just want to turn our discussion, any questions, over to that ballot measure before we move on to 1A. So again, questions that we can answer, or any provide any additional information on that ballot measure. Yes.
Is the county going to follow the state guidelines on products for resale that are tax exempt?
Rick, can you repeat the questions? Okay.
Good question.
The question was, is the county going to follow the state guidelines on products that are resold and that are exempt? Is that correct?
Correct.
The county will follow all the guidelines associated with the current sales tax. And as a matter of fact, we have started to be recognizing that this ballot is a measure for voters to vote on. The Colorado Department of Revenue folks were down and they have provided us with some information. And additionally, I'd like you all to note that when you get your ballots and when you look at them carefully, they're not reduced to small items like vote yes on 1B and so on. They will list all of the items of exemption, and they list all of the items that they will be on there. Would like to point out too that in addition to a sales tax on retail marijuana, which we have had no funds from, there's also a use tax. And on the use tax, if you buy something in Trinidad, you're going to pay a tax on it. And the way that it's collected is typically, since we've not had a use tax before, we will be collecting that, the county will collect that via their permits process. Sales tax will be collected by the state, and it will be distributed back to the county. Does that answer?
Okay.
Good, thank you.
There was another question back there. Yes, please.
Yeah, so if all the ballot issues pass, does this mean that starting at the first of the year that the county will be on a 40-hour work week, or is the county going to need a couple months to catch up?
Okay, again, the question was, if we get what we want at the ballot, on November ballot, is the county going to go back automatically right away to 5 days a week? That's your question? Okay, I'll turn it over to whoever can answer that question.
We're gonna hedge. We have to see how quickly that comes in. I think that we will be able to put everybody back on a 40-hour week if it passes almost immediately, because we have some reserves where we can do that and come back in and backfill that. So I think probably, and that's what I'm going to say, is probably that will happen. But we have to see what the revenues are, where we're at, before we can, in December when we pass the final ballot, we'll have a lot better understanding of what kind of revenues we are going to have, what kind of cuts we're going to have in terms of Gallagher and all of those things. So this is kind of a moving target at this point, but I can't speak for the other two. They may say, no, we're not going to do that. But no, I think we can. And one of the things I really want to emphasize about this 1 cent sales tax, and 1.5 possibly, is that without a sales tax, and we're just doing mill levies, so what we've got here is we've got a finite amount of money that we keep passing back and forth to each other. With a sales tax, those people from Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, wherever they come, we're getting new money that is in this county that's not leaving. So we're generating new money that we didn't have before, that we're not paying for. We're not just trading it back and forth among ourselves. We're bringing in new money. So keep that in mind on a sales tax, is that some of these other states and these other places are helping to finance our county.
Pete?
I just want to reiterate that sentiment exactly. Mr. Moulter made a good comment that I used at the last Meet the Candidates night regarding the 1 cent and a half cent sales tax with 1A and 1B combined. 1.5 cents on sales tax is not really that much. It would put us about 8.5, 8.4. We're at 6.9 right now. When we go out of town, we all do it. We spend money in Pueblo Springs, Denver. We buy our kids' school clothes. We pick up supplies. We go to Costco. We go to lumber yards. And we don't mind paying it up there. Let's help our community here. Let's spend it here, and let's let the tourists come in here and spend their money. About $400,000 plus help our community and help us help you.
And of course, everyone who knows me knows that I very much like budgets. And so in response, another piece of that question is it's been very difficult for our finance manager because, of course, we had to put in a proposed budget to meet it by the deadline on the October 15th. What the finance manager did was to put in 2 budgets. One budget with no sales tax, and she put a little red line on it so that we knew that was the one. And it showed that the workers would continue to work 30 hours a week. She had another budget with a little green line on the date, and that said, if it passes, then we will bring all of our workers to 40 hours a week. I would like to point out that a lot of people don't know at the moment the Department of Human Services is on furlough days. And they are starting this pay period, they have begun to take furlough days, top to bottom. And so that's something that is even newer than the 30-hour a week that you've been hearing about. But indeed, when right after the election, Ms. Coverly will be plugging in those numbers again, and we have a 30-hour budget and there will be a 40-hour budget. We hope that we're going to be going with the 40-hour budget.
Just another question, please.
Yes, back to your use tax, that portion of it.
Yes.
It's a little blurry in ballot measure when you read the legals, but essentially it reads to me, if I travel to Pueblo to buy materials for a permitted project at my residence, then I will also be charged the sales tax, the 1% tax on that purchase for Los Animas County in addition.
Well, if you purchase the goods that you're going to put into your home or your project, and you purchase that in Pueblo, and you pick them up and put them in your truck, you're going to pay Pueblo sales tax. All right. When you, if you were to bring them or ship them to your place here, then you would pay the Los Animas sales tax. But in the permitting process, because the Los Animas County has not had a use tax, and that aspect of it, we haven't received all of the documents on, but it's my understanding that in the permitting process, the use tax will be part of that process.
So you will be paying essentially taxes twice on the same.
Well, you know,
material.
and you likely, based on your question, you likely know better than I, but when we go forward with the permitting for a project, however you're understanding, what I would do is I would show, I personally would show, this is what my cost was, and this is what I paid. And, but at that time, we've not ever had a sales tax. We have never had a use tax. We've never collected anything but the mill levy. But we can verify that, but that is my understanding, if that we will be getting it through your permitting process. So if you put a valuation on yours, then it will be through that process.
Another question, yes.
I once lived in an area where what he's talking about there, across county lines. And when you buy where there is no tax, in the county where there is no tax, but you live in the county where there is tax, then you get a bill afterwards.
Okay.
You don't pay it twice, but you do get a bill for it, for that tax.
Did everybody hear that question?
So what Roberta is commenting on there is that she once lived in a county where there was cross-county lines, and if you bought in a county that had no tax, and then you brought it, then you will later get a bill to make sure that you pay that tax. And that may be clarification enough. But I do know that that is something that we've not had to deal with, and we will look at it. A sales tax in this county, 1 cent, and a use tax is what the ballot is asking for.
Other questions up there? Yeah, way in the back, yes.
I have a question. Some of my neighbors are concerned that the county is counting on the sales tax and the marijuana industry. So with New Mexico possibly legalizing medical, and when the marijuana industry has reached its height and is going back down, then after that heyday, what is the county going to do to kind of attract other industry and diversify so that we're not completely dependent on the marijuana industry?
Yeah, I think it sounds like your question is that if this passes and we get our share, at least the next few years, of the marijuana income, taxing that income, or those sales, excuse me, what happens when that settles down? Well, it's a good question. I don't know for sure, but if you want to take a stab at it first?
Basically, right now, it's hard for us to go after industry because of the tabor. We can't tax a lot of these industries that come here. We can tax them, but we can't keep it. So it's kind of useless to go after new industry, new growth, hemp, marijuana, any of these other industries that are out there because we cannot keep any type of fees or taxes that we put on it. So after you pass 1C and DeBruce is county, we will definitely go after more industry, reach out to commercial businesses, attract new companies to come to our community. But until then, it's kind of pointless. Other than a few jobs it would create, it's not going to help the community as a whole. It will help some private owners, private business, and a few handful of employees here and there, but it won't help our tax base one bit. So that's kind of why we need this really badly to DeBruce. One of 4 counties out of 64 have not DeBruced, sorry, 60 out of 64 DeBruced. They realize the importance of it. And we want to stress that that we cannot raise any mill levy on you. It is not gonna raise your taxes. It's just gonna let us keep what we got. And then we can go after more revenue streams and attract new businesses.
Okay, does that answer your question? Okay. Okay, and by the way, we probably are just too darn nice here in Trinidad, because my wife and I were just a couple days ago out in Rocky Ford, and they're obviously doing the same thing we're thinking about a tax increase. And there's big signs throughout the city, tax the tourist. We haven't done that around here. We're doing it, but we're being a little bit more subtle about that. But why not? It's a good source for us, and we should take advantage of that. So you would share it with us if you would?
Yes, please.
Okay, good.
On the sales tax, I've had a lot of people ask me, well, why should we give you, because the majority of the votes are in the city of Trinidad, why should we give you a sales tax for something we don't benefit ourselves from? What does the county give to us? Firstly, the county has given a lot. When I became the sheriff, the county gave everything to the city for the jail, the justice center, other programs that were going on. The county fulfilled them all themselves. Now we're only asking to be helped. You get the county clerk, you got the treasurer, you got the assessor, you have the jail. We did a survey, and I'm sure Mr. Solano will speak on this later, is roughly 80% of the people in that county jail are city residents. The county still pays for them. All we're asking is help to help us to meet those needs that we have to have. You do benefit from the county. You may not see it, but it is there.
Very good. Okay, any other comments before we turn over?
I'm going to follow up on the sheriff's comment because it's something we've heard a lot in the past couple of years is what does the county do for the city? When most city residents think of the county, they think we're cows and plows, and it's like, no. All cities we have 6 towns and cities that sit within Los Animas County because we are the largest in the state. What the county does is we keep all cities, towns, fire services, ambulance districts, your schools. The county is the basis. We are the workers behind the scene. I do the assessment, I get the evaluations. That way, these entities, your city of Trinidad, your Kim, Branson, Honey, Aguilar, Cokedale, all these cities, all your school districts that your children attend. My valuation gives them and lets them know what their value and what their money is so they can educate our children, provide services to all of us. So, once I get my valuation, I then turn it over to the county treasurer. When you write your tax bill, yes, you write it to Los Animas County. Donna collects it, Miss Leonetti as our treasurer, but then she has to turn around and redistribute that out to all those entities. We have school districts 6 school districts in our county. She has to turn around and make sure that that revenue that you present to Los Animas County, we get to keep 9 mills of it. Most of your school districts are 17 to almost 30 mills in this county. So the majority of that is going back to your school district. The clerk and recorder, when you come to get your tags, that ensures that we have highways and byways to drive on, that you can get your deeds recorded, you can get married, get your marriage certificate. That's what we provide to all citizens within the city of Trinidad. Our DHS, they provide vital services. Our health department provides vital services. Our sheriff's department keeps us safe. Our district attorney is trying to keep us safer. These are all services that the county provides to every single person living in Los Animas County, whether you're in the city limits of Trinidad or whether you're out in the country. And our veterans. Al works wonderfully. He has provided so many services to those veterans that have fought and deserved and earned those services. We are asking whether you're in the city limits of Trinidad or a county resident. We are all Los Animas County residents. Doesn't matter where your house is sitting in our county. So please, the county provides services to all individuals that live here in our county.
Thank you, Judy. Commissioner?
Yes.
I don't know if everybody got a handout on where property tax goes, but if you don't, I don't know, do we have any more of these? They're very, I'm an information kind of guy. But this explains a lot in this. Oh, I apologize. I'm deaf in one ear and can't hear out of the other one. So,
if I hit him with the chair, just ignore it.
If I can hear myself, I think everybody else can. This is, I'm an informational kind of guy, and this is a really good printout. But it shows exactly where our tax dollars go.
Right now, we're just a hair over 2.8 to fund the county. Also on the Tabor, I didn't get to speak earlier. The little handout, if you guys had a chance to look at it, there's a few good things to look at if you want to. Basically, a few highlights on this thing. Tabor limits the amount of property tax revenue which a government may receive in any year. It also, the limit for most governments is the amount of revenue collected in the prior year adjusted for inflation plus growth. So, 2007, I don't know about you guys, but I sure suffered through a big downturn in the economy, 2008. So when that happens, our assessed valuation goes down. We can't spend more than that, so it's the ratchet down effect. And it's a very, very complex law. Because Tabor looks at last year's revenue, if revenues decline due to recession, the government cannot return to the pre-recession expenditures without a voter approval. That is what CE is doing. That's what we're asking the voters to do. If you have a half hour of your life, this is a very, very good way to explain to you. It takes you from the very beginning of Tabor to how it puts a stranglehold on municipalities. It is called The Effect of Tabor on Colorado Municipalities, and it was brought to be by Blaine Hartman and Dominic Walker at the University of Colorado in Boulder. Google that, and also to simplify things, just Google one person, Douglas Bruce. That ought to explain a lot of things. Douglas Bruce is way too extreme for the state.
The state supported you.
Huh?
The state supported you.
Right. I met him a couple times. Really nice man. But on 1B, this summer has been, even with the gas industry being here, but for whatever reason, this summer, I don't know if it's tourists, where they're coming from, people of Denver, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. Main Street, Trinidad has been probably the busiest time I've ever seen it since I've lived here, and I've lived here my whole life. We need to take advantage of that in 1B. It's the most fair thing. It doesn't put taxes on real estate owners. It brings money, like Max said, it brings money out of state, out of our community, and leaves it here, and they leave, and our money stays here. It's just like going to Walmart and finding $1 in a parking lot. It stays in your pocket. We do it ourselves. We go to Pueblo, like we said, we go to Pueblo and we pay 8%, 8.5%, 7.9% up there, and we leave it there. I took my son to Bass Pro Shop up there in Monument. I kind of freaked out when we went to check out. There's 11% in that little area right there. 11% sales tax. All we're asking is for a little investment from our local people to pass 1B, so that others that do not live here makes a big investment, because they're going to leave it here. Sheriff Casillas can arrest them, and we have to feed them. City of Trinidad arrests somebody, sends them to the county jail. County pays for it. City don't pay for it, the county does. It comes into county funds, and we have to medicate and feed these people. So in turn, a sales tax is the most fair tax there is. We all help each other that way. And that's all.
Yeah, question for the commissioner or not?
Is 1A and 1B going to fall under Tabor, or is it exempt from Tabor?
The way it's written, 1A and 1B, if I may, I'm not. If you notice at the end of the ballot question, it is debrucing that question. So they will not fall under tapered off.
Only those funds.
So what kind of plans do you have when you reach excess for that income?
What's the question?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
If it falls under Deep Bruce, then you guys get to keep the excess. What plans do you have to benefit the county with the excess once we make the county whole again?
Well, we'll have to see where we go from there. Right now, what we're asking is breathing room. This will get us breathing room. I think it's going to bring us back up to the 40 hours a week, and it's going to be able to allow us to reevaluate. Right now, all we're doing is maintaining. It's just like you going to your job, you making a certain amount. You know that you're going to make that certain amount for the rest of your life. In fact, you're probably going to decrease, not a raise in pay, and your bills are going to increase. You cannot grow as a municipality that way. You cannot. I mean, you know, I'm the new guy here. I've been here since July 5th. And when I got into that courthouse, these people are working hard and they're trying hard. And they're stressed out, and I know where they're at. This is the first decent year my business has had since 2007. You know, and we got to get some breathing room. And then after we get breathing room, instead of just maintain and try to survive, we can't have any future plans, you know. So once we see where we're at, then we'll see where we're at with that.
And he wants to add to that response.
You asked about the excess in the two ballots. One thing I will certainly allow Mr. Solano to talk to 1A, but I would like to tell you that when we look at the 1% tax, that 1A, I believe, is for 10 years. And there's an intergovernmental agreement with the DA's office and with the county. But the money that is to be collected on 1B and on 1A is specifically identified. And very briefly, I will say this, that on 1A, there's a stated amount, and after that stated amount, if indeed there are excess, it will go to overflow to public safety budgeting purposes, and that would be for the sheriff, for the coroner, for all of the various fire districts. And so it enables some more freedom to allow for those public safety offices. That's 1A. And as I said, Mr. Solano may choose to say more to that. As far as 1B at the moment is geared up so that the money, number one, is hopefully to bring the workers back to a 40-hour work week and give you the services that you deserve and that you're accustomed to. In addition, we had to use a contingent reserves, and the first time to bring it so low, that makes it really bad for our county. I'm told that if we have one major fire, we have one major emergency, that entire reserve is gone. And so what we are doing as part of that, and I'll read it out to you, it's on your pro-con statement, but saying what would we use the money for? It would be get operations back, capital improvements. We have crumbling infrastructure everywhere. We can get grants, but we need matches for those grants in order to be competitive with others. We have to give money back to the contingency fund, and we're certainly not going to be able to give the $200,000 that we took out of it this year for the audit last year. $71,500 is what we're budgeting, trying to get that back in there. Then DHS, all of those programs that the state and the feds mandate that the counties pay for, that we pay for, they will give us so much money, but we have to pay 20% of that. And that's going to cost us $250,000. Emergency response, we had a deal cut last year with the city for $42,000, and we had have to pay to defend that. We're trying to put some more back in there so that that will be a line item, so that emergency response, because everyone should have access to those emergency services. Road and bridge. The payment in lieu of taxes has long been used for the county, but we don't have a mill levy for the road and bridge. You can't know how many times people complain because the roads are washed out, or the bridge is washed out, or you can't pass through because the road and bridge company, they haven't been over there to clean your snow off the county roads. And there's a lot of county roads, and there has to be when you have the largest county in the state. So we'd like to put $200,000 into the road and bridge, because we have had to take the PILT money that has been set aside. Again, Mr. Dornkamp is as tight as you can get with a dollar, and he has matched and patched and taped over and over so that we could be able to do these functions. So any excess, I assure you, is going to be put to the greatest need. And it's not like we have surplus and we're wanting to send people to training camps or going out of state on conferences. That is not at all happening. So it's going to be some years before there's going to be excess to be seen. We need to vote for this, and I'm going to echo what Commissioner Moulter just said. I've worked a lot of places, and it's seldom have I ever, in fact, never have I seen people who are so stressed out from having too much work to do, and they never catch up, and they have a contingent of folks who come in angry and mad as all get out because they had to wait in line. These people don't know that in the larger cities, that's routine sometimes. Some, other places, it's kind of like when I lived in Anchorage, Alaska, you go to get your license renewed, take the test, do all of that. We were hours in line there, and that was a standard. And here, it's been bad. You've seen the picture. There was a photo in the paper today. And all those people have been asked, do you mind if we take your picture here? And they said no. And one of the things that I've heard from those people in that line is, how come if you don't get marijuana money, the city's not helping you? And I think that the people that are arrested, a good part of them are city folks. They're in city. There's the largest numbers in the city. But they come with their baggage. And if they're sick, I happen to know that in 2016, because I had to research it for a marijuana grant, impact grant, there was $98,000 paid for medical assistance. And the food has gone up. It used to be that in the jail, the operations of the sheriff department were up here, and the jail operations were down here. Now it's way flip-flopped. That's what it cost. And anything from what I've discovered, everything from people trying to find ways out to go to the hospital so they could try to escape, to all kinds of different reasons. It's all a cost of the county that it goes through. And there's this relationship, the city and the county. I think it was Jody Amato that stated, and it's one thing that's clear. You take and you look at the city of Trinidad Lake, or wherever you're going, you're using county roads. And you belong in the county. Same thing with Aguilar and Kim. We are not isolated little towns. The county does a great deal. I thought that Mr. Moulter was going to read off how much money went to each one of when he showed me that little list. But the schools get a good part. And I was being facetious when I said perhaps what we should do if when we spend so much money on the school district, that we should ask them to start giving us better civic classes so that everybody knows exactly how it is that we pay for things. Because a good part does go to all of our towns and cities.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, we're trying to wrap it, because I know it's been, we want to keep you here forever, so we want to wrap up our portion of the programs tonight, this evening. Let's see, just as one more guest, I think, to come up to the podium, just to kind of give the audience an idea, further idea of how these cutbacks have affected all county services. Lori from 4-H, would like to come up and just say a few words, please? And obviously, this is kind of dear to a lot of our people here in the audience who have kids who want to participate in programs like 4-H, and how what's happening in the county affects youth as well as people as elderly as I am, for example. Thanks for coming.
Let me make one more statement before I head off the stage. Every single one of these ballot measures is needed. Every single one of them. It's not just about saving jobs, it's about providing a service. If these ballot measures pass, this will literally be by the people and for the people. Because that's really who this is for. It's for the constituents of this county, and like Ms. Fraser and Jody said, the city is in the county. It's for us to provide a service to the constituency. So it will literally be by the people and for the people. Help tourists, help marijuana buyers, pay for our community, help us assist in those services in our community. And I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It's we know it's going to get cold and stuff, and I want to thank the committee people and everybody that's really worked hard on this.
Now it's me.
Yes, sorry.
No, you're good. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Lori Arnold, and I work for Colorado State University Extension. I work directly with the 4-H Youth Development Program, and kind of like Jody said earlier, where they think the county is cows and plows, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Sometimes people think 4-H is cookies and cows, which isn't true anymore. At one time, we were very much in a rural youth development program, but in the last 4 or 5 years, we have been in the schools. Every second grader in Trinidad has had the 4-H embryology project. So every second grader has went through 5 hours of a 4-H curriculum. So it's not just for country kids. What happened to us is I'm actually funded 80% from the state of Colorado, and my coworker was funded 80% from the state of Colorado, and the county chips in a small portion. Unfortunately, with the county's cuts, they were unable to meet the state's matching fund, I guess, in order. So our office went from 3 people in 2014, and now we're down to 1 person, which is me. The major thing that I want you to be aware of, and I don't want to whine a lot, but our budget had over a 52% decrease from 2014 to 2017. So, are the services still there? Yes. Are we trying to do the best that I can do? Yes. But am I able to meet the clientele's needs? No, I'm not. And am I able to meet the youth needs? No, I'm not. I mean, I can work with Trinidad Youth Club, I can work in the schools, but again, I'm only 1 person. And if we can fully fund our office through the ballot measure, it would make a huge impact on helping get positive youth development into Los Angeles County. Does anybody have any questions?
How many kids do you have, Lori, that you...
In the traditional youth program, which is the traditional Club 4-H program, we have about 160 kids. We have 10 4-H clubs throughout the county. In our what we call our school enrichment program, over 300 kids last year were affected by that program. And again, that was last year, and this year I'm hoping to still do everything, but again, I'm only 1 person, so we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work. Okay, one more from an entirely different perspective. Junie, as our county coroner, would you like to say a few words, please? Again, any questions while Junie's coming up here? Okay, well, almost on to the next topic. Thanks for your patience.
Hi guys, thanks for coming out for this important meeting tonight. Dominic Burke, everybody knows me as Junior, Los Angeles County Coroner. Again, Los Angeles County Coroner. Make it quick. I talked to Pete, I talked to Mr. Moulter, Mr. Lopez, sorry. Our county is huge. As of now, we have 52 cases that have gone through the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office to be processed. Of those 52 cases, a very, very good estimate, and I haven't put them on paper, but just going through my mind sitting in the audience tonight, at least 80% of those cases are within the city limits of Trinidad. The other cases are county residents that passed away. Coming up winter time, we'll have a lot of deaths on the interstate, traffic accidents. So Los Angeles County pays for all autopsies and toxicology and transportation for those people. Again, about 80% of our deaths are within the city limits of Trinidad. So grandma and grandpa dies of old age or some known disease that, not really a heart attack, just old age. There's really no autopsy required. A lot of the cases that we're not sure of, we'll have to autopsy by law. I confer with our MEs that do the autopsies. Toxicology is done on all the drug overdoses and traffic accidents. So all that portion comes out of Los Angeles County's revenues, my budget. Right now we've been cut. I've been in the red since probably April of this year, and we're really skimping as best we can. We can't skip much. The holiday seasons are coming up. It's traditionally a bad time for suicides this time of year going on. So our highest case number has been 75 cases that we processed through. Prior to, we've averaged around 30 to 35. We doubled 1 year. We're sitting around 50 to 60 cases a year now that run through the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office. So all that reflects on our county revenues. We pay the bill for the whole shebang. That's about it in a nutshell. Any questions, anybody?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any other comments or participation? Okay, then I will turn the program, the evening over finally to one. Thanks again for your patience.
My name is Henry Solano. I'm your elected district attorney. And I'll start out by saying it is not easy to ask for people to reach into their pockets to pay more for services. I don't take that responsibility and the effort with the county commissioners to propose 1A lightly. And I guess I would say it in the following way. I have been blessed because of the sacrifices and investments of the community that I grew up in Florence, Colorado, rural community. We were in the league where in sports we were competing with Trinidad, with Lamar, all of those communities. And I've had wonderful opportunities because of the sacrifices of the community, my parents, to go on to be the first of our generation to go to school and then go on to professional school. And as some of you may know, I've been privileged to serve in the public sector at the state, the federal level, and now here at the local level, and to be in private practice. But one of the things and why I touch on that is that when I grew up in a blue-collar family. My father was a laborer in Ideal Cement, Portland. I grew up knowing what layoffs meant, knowing what being on commodities meant. And because of that, every single time I've taken on a public position or responsibility, I've recognized that the money that pays for what I get the privilege to do comes from very hardworking people, like my parents, like my cousins, like others. And so I approach every position in the public sector with dedication, with complete honesty, and the best I can. And I move in that situation, trying to excite the same with the employees that I work with. The next part that I will touch on that is, in some of those experiences, I've had the ability and the opportunity to work with, at one time, over 20,000, I was the supervisor for over 20,000 public employees. All the prisons, all the developmentally disabled facilities, the state hospital. I went to those facilities not just during the days, but at night to sit with the workers. And what I will tell you is workers in the public sector try hard. Our job at the top is to give them the tools and to allow them to be excited about providing the services. And that's what I think all of these initiatives are about. But the other part of it is as I started the job, before I thought about asking for the sales tax, I looked at several different things. First of all, if I was going to ask, I had to be in a position to stand up and say that I have done the best I can with what I have. I have taken and stretched the money that I had as far as it can be stretched. That we've been creative as much as we can so that what we do is different than what happened before. The second part in terms of 1A was to look at and see how can we get those who benefit to help pay. And in my mind, that was to not be dependent on property tax, because that strikes individuals who many times are on fixed income. And they, in my view, should not carry the whole responsibility for what we do in the public sector. So we looked at a statutory provision that allows for a sales tax if voted by the voters for public safety purposes. In fact, that's the language of the act. So on 1A, if it passes, the only thing it can be used for is public safety purposes. So here's how we've tried to put it together. I've made the office efficient. I've borrowed and gotten donated equipment. We now have a modern day law office, a modern day prosecutorial office. The other thing we've done is try to figure out how to challenge and take on the challenge of what has happened before. You all know it, you all have lived it. Because of limited resources, many cases that were filed as felonies were dismissed. Many cases filed as felonies were plea bargained down to misdemeanors. And when I first got into court on my very first felony case, and as we were dealing with it, I was asked, what is the criminal history of this person? 20 pages that showed how that person had interacted with the criminal justice system. Out of those 20 pages, page after page, felony charge dismissed. Felony charge pled to a misdemeanor. And that's what's led people to believe that we have a revolving door here. That's what leads people to be fearful about what is going on, because the sense is that the criminals control what happens. The criminals don't believe there is a sanction for what they do. And so from the very first day, my dedication with the staff we have was to change that. And we've done that. In 9 months, with no new money, I can tell you as of 2 weeks ago, we got 33 felony convictions. And out of those 33 felony convictions, over 80% of them are individuals being sent to the Department of Corrections. The high sentence was 12 years. A couple of 6-year sentences. The average sentence that I now get is 3 years to the Department of Corrections. I can't change the past, but in the present, going forward, when somebody looks at the criminal history, I'll be able to say, that person has been convicted of 1 felony, 2 felonies. The other thing we do, and I've done, that hasn't been done before, is for people who do have multiple felony convictions, I file what is called habitual offender charges, in addition to the main charge. I've now filed my 6th. One of the individuals who now has 3 cases, if I convict him on each one of the cases, for each case, he can be sentenced to 44 years in the Department of Corrections. That means 44 times 3. That's one person. That sentence enhancer allows us to start charging and multiplying the sentence by 3 years or 2 years. So what I'm telling you is that I believe I can say to you, the money that we're asking for is money that will help us take back our communities. Monies that will help make your system, your communities feel safer. One of the cases I now have, part of the challenge I have is the people who are witnesses are fearful that the criminal will either get probation or will come out and retaliate. And so they're afraid to come forward. They're now seeing with this record that there is support there. We are doing and prosecuting 20% more cases this year than last year, and more than ever before. And part of that is because law enforcement now sees the district attorney's office as one that will take on every case they have, number one. Number two, that we will sit down with law enforcement and ask them their opinion on what should happen. The first time that's ever been done. But we need to be able to do more. I still have to plea bargain cases that are no longer for misdemeanors, but for low-level felonies. Partly because I don't have the resources to be able to complete and put the cases together. And part of that is because our law enforcement, who are now bringing more cases, are just having their hands full with those cases. So part of what I'm asking for is staff to have investigators and others who can interview witnesses, to bring stronger cases, to sit at the table and say, this is the high level that I'm willing to accept. You either take it or we go to trial. So it's with that kind of background and 9 months of experience that I'm saying to you, I believe we are not the office of before. We're not the office we should be. But I believe that you should be able to say, yes, this is an office that is well run, stretches the dollar, does the right thing, and can trust and earn your vote and the money to help us keep going, to do that even further. As you've also heard just recently, I just don't rely on what we're doing. We've now had 2 forums with the U.S. Attorney in the U.S. Attorney's office, an office I ran 20 years ago, who are down here, and they will tell you, they just told everyone 2 weeks ago, last week, they now are opening up 12 cases, joining with us, that they're going to prosecute. So I'm looking to stretch the resources as much as I can, but I believe we're in a position to say the dollars you get and give to us are going to be well spent. What 1A does is it allows for, and it's, I'm not great with math, it's like 5 cents on every $10. We come in and the county commissioners have that money to first pay and use the money for the budget of the district attorney's office. If there is any excess, according to what I request and they believe is appropriate, any excess goes to other public safety agencies. But that money is not to carpet our office, to spend money for raises. It's to actually bring more investigators, a few more prosecutors and paralegals to keep the progress and to keep taking back our community. So people don't have to be afraid about the revolving door. So that's what we're about. That's what I'm asking for. I believe we've demonstrated that you can trust what we're doing to be effective and efficient with your money. And if you understand and believe in that, or even if you don't, I would ask you to take time to talk to 5 people and let them know what you've heard, what you believe, and ask them to vote. However the vote may turn out, it's important that people be given a chance to vote. So that's the request.
Could you explain to the audience how many caseloads you have and how many attorneys you have to prosecute in Los Angeles County?
When I got here, and right now, on the budget, we have 3 prosecutors. I'm one of 3. The Public Defender's Office, who is funded by the state to represent the defendants, and I think that's appropriate, I'm not knocking that, are funded with 4 attorneys. And then if they have a conflict, because sometimes they can't represent the same parties in another case or co-defendants, there are up to 8 additional attorneys that are paid by the state to defend the defendants. So right now, we have fewer people to prosecute all the cases, and we're on the lifting end, which means we have to put the cases together, we have to investigate them, and then we have to be able to prosecute them. Yes, Ms.
Who funds the Department of Corrections?
The State Department or the county?
The state? So you're putting the people in
Yes.
prison, the state's paying for them?
And that's a good question. If we convict someone for a misdemeanor, which is generally less than 18 months, if they're convicted for a misdemeanor, where they serve their time is in the sheriff's your detention facility. But if we send them to the Department of Corrections, a judge convicts them, they go to the state pays for them. You have a facility out here, Trinidad State Prison, so that's not a cost of yours, but to get them there, that's a cost that you pay for, which is what we do.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I guess the last comment I would make is, and this talks about the sheriff, we are doing such a high volume of cases that last week, when we had the defendants who were arrested brought in, because each one of them is brought in, they have to be brought in under security for their court hearings. Through the course of one day, we had such a large number of people that had to be brought in back and forth from the jail that it consumed all of the sheriff's staff. And on that day, in the morning and in the afternoon, he didn't have deputies to go out and patrol. It's just another sign and function that we're generating a large amount of what I believe to be appropriate prosecutions, but we need help. We need to be able to break that cycle to help you be safe. And for me, and for our part, that's why we believe the sales tax is most important. Everyone who benefits, whether tourist or otherwise, from a safe community helps support that safe community. So we can stop the burglars, so we can stop the drug trafficking. We can help grow and make the community stronger, make your homes safer. And that's what 1A is all about. Yes, Ms.
Mr. Solano, I'm not sure if this is a question that you can answer or one of the other folks from the county, but we heard a lot today about, these folks are from the city, a lot of that is in Sheriff Casillas' jail and from the city. What has the county done to see if the city can help? I mean, have we went to the city and asked them for some of this help?
I'll answer that in two parts.
And I see a whole bunch of people coming in that are applying for assistance that are living in the city.
Right. The question is, because some of us have a responsibility that covers the whole county, but also covers what happens because crimes are committed in the city and other things, what is being done to ask the city to help? The first thing I will tell you is, because the county commissioners had to cut across the board, they cut the district attorney's budget. And I was able to get the amount that was going to be cut put in a one-time payment by the city. And part of the argument I made was I prosecute all crimes, including crimes brought by the Trinidad Police Department. What I did 3 weeks ago was I notified the city council that I was going to be bringing to them a request on behalf of the Sheriff's Department, the detention facility, because I believed in this short time, in the time of short money, that they should be asked to help fund for the detention center, because the detention center holds 80% of the criminals who have committed crimes in the city of Trinidad, not just in the county. And Sheriff Casillas and I are putting together that package, and we're going to present that as soon as we can. But by law, the responsibility that we have is a countywide responsibility. It's not borne by the city, but the city has been responsive. They've given us donated equipment in my office so that we can make it modern. And we're going to continue to ask.
Mr. Solano?
Yes.
I just got up from there.
Yes.
I've already been asked. If your measure does not pass, but 1B does, do you get your funding out of 1B and then they'll have to rebudget?
I would be entitled to ask for it. It would be up to the county commissioners to decide if they would use that revenue or any part of that revenue for the district attorney's office. Right now, given what we've talked about, if 1A passes, the county monies that I currently get, I would not need to rely on. The county commissioners would be able to use that for other agencies. So I'm not asking to double dip, is what I'm saying.
Well, I understand that. What are you getting from the county currently?
$177,000.
So that would go back into county.
That would go back into the county
If
fund.
he doesn't, the county would at least get that back.
The county would get that back to use for other agencies. I guess what you've raised is, since you've raised that number, one of the former county commissioners, he was here, brought to me a budget by a former district attorney from 1984. And what he got from Los Animas County in 1984 was $154,000. This is now 30 some odd years later, and I'm at a point where it's only 20,000 more. And we have more crimes and more larger crimes than before. 2 other elected district attorneys left office because the DA's office was not adequately funded. The thinking behind 1A is to find a dedicated revenue stream that the county commissioners can look to, first for the district attorney's office, and then, if there's excess, to go to other public safety needs. I've written the budget in a way, and my projection is that it's right-sized exactly for the amount that we anticipate. Not fluff, not all those other things, just the addition of staff to do the job and to continue strengthening what we're doing in our prosecutions.
So according to the papers that they gave out on 1B, 1% would give approximately $1.1 million into the county budget.
Yes. I'm assuming that is an accurate figure. I didn't.
0.5% of that would be roughly $550,000. What is your annual budget now?
$580,000 is the amount that it would generate. Right now, the amount of my budget now is $225,000, $250,000. But what I'm asking for are the resources to have another prosecutor, to have investigators, to have paralegals, so that we can continue the prosecution function. It's not to go to equipment, it's not to go to increases or salary raises, it's just to staff up the office, because as I indicated, the public defender's office has 4 attorneys, we have 3. They have, in addition to that, 7 others or 8 others that they can draw on. So essentially, it would help bring us to a point where we're sort of at the same advantage for the purposes of prosecution.
A little bit to add to Mr. Solano's comments about his office that is always working with law enforcement. We're not here to belittle other DAs that were there prior to him. All he's trying to do is raise the level, get that bar up higher to say that if somebody commits a crime, he will be prosecuted to the extent of the law. He needs that money generation there so that he can help get his witnesses and other resources that he has investigating about these crimes here to make sure that happens. When I was taking inmates to the courts there, they knew they were going to get plea bargains. Now, their words that we took just a couple of days when he was mentioned, we had 23 inmates to take to the court. A couple of them were shit, because they know they're not going to get a plea bargain anymore. They are going to pay the full penalty of the law, and that's what Mr. Law is trying to do. He's not trying to be a hammer to them, but he's trying to make them the consequence for the crime they committed. And if we get them in our county jail for 18 months, if it's a serious crime, they're going to the Department of Corrections. And we still pay for that, though, for taxes to the state, so we're paying for all of them. But we need to be able to pay and help for those that he's going to prosecute. If we wanted to prosecute to the full extent of the law, he needs that revenue to help him to buy his time, to buy people that need to do those researches for him, investigative things that we need. When you go to court, you can't go on gut feeling, or yes, I know, Your Honor, I think he did it. No. Evidence has to be provided to the courts and to a jury. You people have sat on jury in court. You know what it is on evidence that's being produced in the courts there. You have to see and feel what you have there. It's not just word of mouth. You need to see it, and that's what he's trying to do. Provide the proof there that's needed so these guys can get convicted and go to prison or to the county jail.
Here's a cycle I've tried to break, but this is just another example. In the federal system, and I did that before, they have what I call truth in sentencing. If you're convicted of a crime there, you spend 80% of the sentence. There's no parole. In the state system, they have not only parole, but if you're sentenced to the Department of Corrections, you're entitled to earn what is called good time. And what that basically says is if you earn good time, 50% of your sentence is cut off. Then you're also, if you do a little better than just sitting around and not causing trouble, you do a little bit to help the prison system, you can earn another 50%. So in other words, a 10-year sentence could be a 2.5-year sentence. I still get convictions, but the thing I do, and I need to do, or sometimes have to do because of the challenge in terms of proving the evidence at the higher level, is I'll still get a plea conviction to a felony. What I'm talking about doing is being able to prosecute to the highest charge and to get dispositions that are higher. So they'll spend more time in the Department of Corrections outside of the community. And that's what this money will do, is help be able to say, like the one gentleman who's going to get 44 years, I mean, that person, we're going to probably plea bargain, but he is going to be spending a large amount of time outside of Los Angeles County. And he's going to be tagged as a habitual offender, which means the next time he commits a crime, he's looking at life imprisonment with only the possibility of parole. And those are the kind of charges I'm bringing, those are the kind of plea bargains, as well as trials we're bringing. And these resources, it may sound like a big increase, but these resources help do that. And the more we get higher conviction rates and higher crimes, the safer, I believe, everyone will be. We'll break that cycle of rampant burglaries or thefts or drugs, which is pervasive here and hasn't been prosecuted for a large period of time. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Again, thank everybody for coming. I'm sorry the evening was a little longer than we probably thought it was, but I thought it was a good dialogue. So I hope you agree. I hope you learned something. I hope that you understand the importance of what's going to be on the ballot in November. Please vote. Please encourage your friends and family and co-workers to vote. And please vote yes. But again, please vote. And thank you for coming.
Oh yeah, I've been up and walking since the day of surgery.
How has it been?
I'm about 5% of that from full range of motion. But no, that's as far as I'll get. I know for a fact. Once.
You fight it. You fight it. You get 100%.
But I feel better. That's for damn sure. It's a whole different pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a happy.